The sweepstakes ticket that the Chicago Blackhawks had before the 1980-81 season brought probably the best Quebec Major Junior Hockey League player to Chi-Town in several years, changed around the franchise, not in the 80-81 season, but later on where they challenged and were challenging Edmonton for superiority in the Western Conference. Now, the 80-81 season welcomed the Phenom, Denis Savard. Now, in the 1980 NHL entry draft, with the third overall pick, they took again Savard from the Montreal Junior Canadiens of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. That year, he had 181 points, including 63 goals in 72 games. Now, a lot of people thought that Montreal would take Denis Savard. They took the very capable Doug Wickenheiser, and he lived to regret it. Montreal got Savard from Chicago for Chris Chelios in a major deal a few years later, but the stone was cast. Montreal ended up being in the wilderness for a couple of years, and this reinvigorated the Chicago franchise, so much so they were Stanley Cup finalists within a decade after, again, being mediocre after that 73 season where they lost to Montreal, and a few campaigns later were non-entities in the postseasons. Now, there was a big shift with Chicago in 81 as the club replaced head coach Eddie Johnson as former Blackhawks defenseman and captain Keith Magnuson was named the new head coach of the squad. Now, Magnuson had appeared in almost 600 games in Chicago from 69 to 1980. Now, this year, Terry Ruskowski had good leadership as captain. He had the veteran presence of the late, great Tony Esposito. Rest in peace, buddy. There's a lot of your fans are mourning. I make this podcast in tribute to Tony because that 81 season, it's a very interesting story. I'm going to get into it. They were one of the hottest teams in the league after starting off cold, and they were well on their way to being well over 500, but injuries beset them again. It was a hot and cold season. Certain key players were out for a while. Now, they had a tough first half of the season, as the club had a record of 12, 22, and 6 through the first 40 games, clinging on to the fourth and final playoff position in the Smite. The Blackhawks then went 14, 2, and 4 in the next 20 games, which included an impressive 8-game winning streak to improve their overall record to 26, 24, and 10, and second place in the division. Now, in the last 20 games, they went in the doldrums again with a 5, 9, and 6 record, finishing the campaign 31, 33, and 16 with 78 points and maintaining second place in the weak Smite division, a full 15 games or 31 points behind the division winners, St. Louis Blues. Now, offensively, Tom Laziak, who had come over from Atlanta, led the club with 76 points, with 21 goals and 55 assists. Now, Savard, who was impressive at times and mediocre at times, finished 1 point behind with 28 goals and 75 points, while having a team best plus 27 rating. Now, Daryl Sutter, always known to put the puck in the net, led the Blackhawks with 40 goals with 62 points, while Reggie Kerr had 30 goals and 30 assists in 70 games. Ruskowski chipped in with 59 points, while leading Chicago with 225 penalty minutes. Now, on the blue line, the very rugged Bob Murray led scoring with 13 goals and 60 assists, while the impressive Doug Wilson had 12 goals and 51 points. Now, Esposito had an okay season, 29, 23, and 14 in 66 games with a 3.75 goals against average. Now, what really stands out for me, ladies and gentlemen, they're in a division with Colorado and Winnipeg, and where 3 teams are under 500 made the playoffs, and Chicago was minus 11 on the plus minus. 304 goals for, 315 against. Now, the schedule and results were kind of weird. They started off 3-0-1 with 3 big wins against Buffalo and Montreal and Vancouver. Then he went to the Doldrums, losing 4-5, and a devastating 7-2 loss to Montreal on October 23rd. Then he won 3 straight games. Then he lost 3 or 4, and didn't win until November 19th. Won 3 straight. Then they went on another doldrum. They lost 6 straight, and then he went on another doldrum. They lost 5 straight over Christmas break, including to the Islanders, Buffalo, Toronto, Boston, and Montreal again. However, they rebounded after Christmas, almost went undefeated for the whole month, with victories over Pittsburgh, Colorado, Pittsburgh again, Calgary, Boston, Hartford, Quebec, Montreal, Vancouver, and Calgary. Only 2 losses in a month. Now, February, they never lost until the 18th, winning against Pittsburgh, Edmonton, Hartford, Winnipeg, and Colorado. But then it was downhill from there. Between February 21st and the end of the season, they only had 5 wins total. A lot of ties. They were only able to win a few key games, including Quebec on March 8th, Winnipeg on March 15th, the Flyers on March 18th, Detroit on March 29th, and a final 8-4 win against Minnesota. Now, once the playoffs rolled around, we knew bad things were going to happen. They opened the playoffs in a best-of-5 against the ever-improving Calgary Flames. Now, the Flames finished the season with a 39-27-14 record with 92 points, 7 full games ahead of Chicago, which gave them third place in the Patrick Division. The series opened with 2 games at the Calgary Corral, and in the first game, the Blackhawks were led by 2 goals by Darryl Sutter. But it wasn't enough as the Flames held on for a 4-3 victory. In the second game, the Flames dominated the Hawks, defeating Chicago 6-2, as Calgary was led by goalie Reggie Leblanc, who made 38 saves. The series moved to Chicago for the third game as the Flames took a 4-2 lead going into third. The Blackhawks tied the game on goals by Al Secord and Darryl Sutter to force overtime. However, double overtime, the very durable Willie Plett of the Flames scored as Calgary completed the series sweep. Now, the regular season was a mixed bag. They had some really strong players, but the injuries really hampered them. Mulvey only played 42 games, Sharpley only had 35 games, Secord only 41 games, Richie Preston only 47, Mike O'Connell only played 34 games, Settlebauer only played 39 games, John Marks 39, Miles Harko 42, Dave Hutchison only played 59, Ricky Patterson 49, and Steve Larmer, again up and coming, only played 4 games. So key players were either traded or injured most of the seasons, and but what really helped Toronto, Chicago, it was a good draft for them. They also got Steve Ludzik in the draft, who paid off years later, Troy Murray, Kerry Wilson, trade bait of course, but Steve Larmer, again, a great Chicago future. Now, the 80-81 season was kind of weird because Edmonton was expected to do more in the West. They didn't. There was a talk about if Montreal was finally going to break through. They couldn't. They lost to the Oilers. To get back to the Stanley Cup, at least the quarterfinals. But it was a weird year because I used to watch some cable games from Chicago at the time, and one guy said it was like that song from West Side Story, something's happening soon. But you watch in aspects of Chicago, especially at Chicago Stadium when Savard was on, and Al Secord, returned to a big score. But seeing Savard gain confidence, especially in the second half of the season, he would rarely make a mistake, and he was getting played a lot. Now, I would suspect that if the Chicago players had played the whole season, they could have won 40 games. They were that good, but those losses were really tough. They were losing a lot of games in the third period. They were getting scored on end of period, end of the second, start of the third. Where they weren't consistent. And Tony Esposito, again, at the time, was pretty well, not say frustrated, but, their defense could have been better. And, of course, that's a year where he decided to play for Team USA in the Canada Cup. And a lot of people felt he had a lot to prove because he felt maybe that he let some of these teammates down, because with Savard in the lineup, there shouldn't have been any excuses. But Roskowski skated miles that season. And, Lysiak, very underrated player, good team leader. But all I'm saying, when the Quebec Nordiques used to play Chicago that season, it was rocking, ladies and gentlemen. You talk about a fan base. People from Quebec would drive or fly all the way to Chicago to see Denis Savard. And to me, Denis Savard's arrival was the start of the modern NHL we see it now, which started, of course, with Gretzky's rise and the big lines of the 80s. Later on, Jeremy Roenick, Tom Barrasso, all these top players. The NHL of the 1980s and early 90s started with that Chicago season. And let me tell you something. When the Chicago Stadium was rocking, ladies and gentlemen, when Savard was almost beating the Oilers, it was tremendous. So, ladies and gentlemen, in tribute to Tony Esposito, this is our latest podcast on the Blackhawks. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, subscribe. And Tony O would always like to say, If you can't win on the road, you probably can't win in the playoffs. Thanks for listening. Bye.